Self-trust is an awareness of yourself, which there is no acronym for it. So I created one, which is your sacred, empowered, luminous force, your light body, like an understanding of what am I? And when you understand who and what you actually are, and that the greater you is watching everything you're doing and has this beautiful bird's eye view of life, you can trust in something greater than you that is you and understand the totality that is you. Whew, you're never alone, so you're not going to get lonely. And you'll have much more faith by tuning into that inner voice and that awareness, which is usually enthusiasm, which is not fear. So self trust is first off understanding who and what you are, which is so much greater than you possibly know.
Welcome back to the Power and Purpose podcast. I am your host, Vanessa Soul. Thank you so much for tuning in and investing your time and your energy into today's episode. I truly appreciate it. Please share this episode and leave us a review if you really resonate with today's conversation. And I'm super excited for today's guests. We have Kyle Emanuel Brown. He is a high performance coach, shamanic practitioner, and author of the best selling book, Total Self Trust. He blends over 25 years of experience in fitness, nutrition, and entrepreneurship with spiritual and energetic practices to help high achievers break free from burnout and reclaim their energy, focus, and purpose. Kyle, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Vanessa. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So I love asking my signature question, who are you and who are you not?
I'm actually going to say this little coffee mug I just got is a good example of who I am. And it says right here, I am the universe pretending to be human. So I think that's a good definition of who I am. I am a guy who signed up for the expert level of the video game of life, meaning instead of just sitting and meditating in a cave, I have multiple entrepreneurial practices and businesses focusing on being the best and highest version of myself and helping serve as a bridge to help people live their best life. And then I also play at the level of both a husband and a father of two great kids, one with an autoimmune disease. So I jumped full into this earthbound experience. And then who am I not? Um, I'm a big fan of the Alan Watts quote of you have no responsibility to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. And so I am not someone who is fully attached to labels. I am not someone who thinks they need to work within the paradigms of being a serious adult in any capacity. I would much rather be happy and playful and living most of my life in bliss consciousness. So that's who I am not.
That's amazing. And I love that quote. And for some reason, I never knew that it was from Alan Watts.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a great teacher that is accessible to us all.
Yes, absolutely. And his work will live on for so long.
That's legacy in a
Yes,
nutshell.
absolutely. So I'm so interested to hear about your near-death health collapse in 2019 and if it was a wake-up call or what might have happened after that.
Definitely. So I would say I've had a few near-death experiences in my life. More like a cat, I needed to have it happen experientially multiple times till it clicked. And the 2019 experience was pretty profound. Basically, I had just gone through this Human Longevity Institute full body MRI evaluation, which is like the top, where's your current health standing, you know, test, where I had my whole human genome mapped. And as I went through that, they're like, oh, you're in incredible shape. And my whole identity was around health and fitness at the time. I'm 5% lean year round for 20 something years, just identified as Kyle, the celebrity personal trainer, clinical nutritionist. And January 2020 came around, And basically, I got sick on January 2nd. And I was like, "God, I've been sick in 5 years with any kind of cold or anything." I was a mental toughness coach. I'm like, mind over matter, I'm good. And kept FaceTiming family members who are doctors, asking them, hey, any thoughts? Should I do anything? We finally got to the point on January 11th, which was, hey, you should go get a chest x ray. So I go into the hospital to get the chest x ray. The nurse grabs the phone and says, code sepsis. And I was like, who's that for? She goes, you. It's like your organs are shutting down. You're on the verge of death. And at that moment, the mind over matter stuff all crumbled. And this guy whose entire identity was around health and fitness, and I only eat organics and I won't touch antibiotics or anything like that, all had to shift. And I instantly surrendered at that moment. And they tried every antibiotic in the book. I had double pneumonia. My organs were shutting down. I'm in the ER. And basically, then I'm on a machine to help me breathe. And I'm sitting there at that moment. And long story short, I get a very clear message that I wasn't on the right path anymore. I had been a very spiritually tapped in kid. I have an aunt who's Hawaiian shaman, Reiki master, all of that stuff, and another aunt who is a channel, a medium, who's since passed. And all of those things were part of me as a kid, but I've been so in my masculine, building the fitness empire, proving to everybody, that I can be this particular image I was creating, that we'll just say the universe had another option for me and said, you don't need to be this actor in the play anymore. And if you're interested, we've got another role for you. And so everything changed and shifted that day.
What an incredible story. And so it sounds like it was burnout, and misalignment, right? Being on a different
Mhm.
path and the universe is helping or was helping you realign. But it sounds like it was like hustle and burnout. Was it other things as well? What really was it?
It's a combination of a few things. One is it was definitely me burning out. Yeah, I was sleeping 4, maybe 5 hours a night. I was running a meal replacement shake company. We had in Whole Foods that I'd been building for years. We had that for 17 years. I'd run a show on ESPN. I've got young kids at home. I'm hustling, pushing, going, driving. And in addition to that, it was what I'll call ego driven confidence versus soul fueled confidence, meaning there was this external, like, I'm winning image and persona that was not deep down in a state of calm and contentment and happiness and safety with who I am. And so that was the, hey buddy, you forgot your mission. You forgot why you came here. And it wasn't to accumulate accolades and stuff. And I didn't need to outsource my self-worth. My self-worth was an inside job that took no work whatsoever. And there was a total restructuring of who I was at the core that definitely didn't happen overnight, but was an unfolding.
And before we start to talk more about self trust and what it is and your book and all the things and your message and everything that you're doing now, I'm so interested, in those pivotal moments in our life when we were younger. And you said something that you were spiritually tapped in. And for some reason, I know that this isn't a fact or it doesn't prove anything, but for some reason, we don't hear a lot of men share that. So
That's right.
so because you're a guy and you're in the masculine energy on the show, if you want to share anything, like what was that like being tapped in spiritually? Did other people know? Did you embrace it? Was it confusing? Like, or was it fun? Like, what was it like?
Yes, 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 and yes. It was all of the above. I was pretty fortunate. I had this really interesting mix of being very in my masculine. My dad was the town eye doctor. He lifted weights. We had weights in the basement and a punching bag in the basement. My grandpa had boxed. My oldest brother's 8 years older than me, so we had pictures of good-looking women on the wall. I was listening to, Van Halen, but I was also listening to Tony Robbins on tape as a kid. And then my dad sold, I joke that he is the great grandfather of biohacking if Dave is the father because he was selling blue blockers in factories for the junk light. So I got exposed to a lot of great divine masculine system and structure through him. His sisters, who he, loved but thought were nut jobs for the most part. And my mom was an art teacher, but his sisters were extremely tapped in, and I was very close with them. Still am to the one who's present, and still am to the one who's on the other side. And basically, one was a Hawaiian shaman, Reiki master, Jinsen Jitsu, numerology, astrology, since like the 60s. Only it's organic, totally into a lot of the things you're into, which was awesome. So I got exposed through her. And then the other one was a medium who worked at University of New Mexico, so she could be closer to, where the UFOs were basically. It was her vision. So on my 12th birthday, I was told by the one aunt, I'll take you wherever you want to go and get you whatever you want. And so the 12-year-old version of me said, oh, let's go to the metaphysical store. And I got, it's called Heaven on Earth at the time. And now it's called Soulscape. But I went there out in San Diego and I got a copy of Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life, which had a rainbow on it. So I hid it under my trapper keeper because I didn't want to get punched in the face because I am also still an athlete hanging out with a bunch of bros. And I also picked out animal spirit cards, which still use that stuff to this day, which is pretty cool. So it was a very challenging time. If you're asking, how was that experience? Um, I had a few years as a little kid out in Southern California where it's a very open-minded place and you could be like, hey, my God is a stalk of broccoli and I wear it around my neck and people are like, that's great, tell me all about it. It's just very open to you being you. But then when I moved back to my hometown is where they filmed the movie Groundhog Day. And 18,000 people, everybody knows everyone. And as long as you're just like everyone else, everything is cool. If you're different, there's a lot of questioning. And so being different, I was quiet, I was shy, and I was super weird in most people's eyes through at least my own interpretation of how that process went. So I kept most of the things I was into to myself and didn't open up a lot about it. And then I finally got into a place in high school where I stopped caring. And I remember there's a moment I'm wearing a necklace that has ET on it that I drilled a hole through his head. I'm wearing moccasins, native moccasins instead of shoes, and a tie-dyed set of overalls around school. And it's so weird. For some reason, I didn't have any dates or girlfriends. I don't know why, but I think I do. I think it was pretty obvious based on the fact that I was just authentically, uniquely me at the moment, and I had ran out of fucks to give. And I
Yeah.
think right now I look at the adult version of me, and the adult version of me is very much the same as that version of me. I just had a 20 something year stint of not being that person.
Yeah. Oh, wow. What's so interesting. Thank you for sharing all of that. And for anyone listening, it is challenging growing up with those abilities. And Kyle, do you identify with any of the six different clairs? There's actually more than six, but clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance, clair, any of those?
Yes, great question. So, the ones that are the most active in me specifically are clairsentience and claircognizance. There's a really strong knowingness, and then there's really strong sense, which for me, having been a competitive bodybuilder, I think that only activated it to another level where I'm extremely sensitive with my body. So then, whether or not it is a physical thing or a metaphysical thing, I'm very in tuned. And what's interesting is the awareness that's come over the years is that we are all clair-omni, meaning we all have all of these. It's just whether or not we are open to activation of them or we are stuck with the label and identity of I am this. And for years, I kept just going, I'm clairsentient, I'm claircognizant, and I would through every morning through my shamanic rituals, I would be begging for more activation of those gifts. And I think once I stopped thinking so much about it and started surrendering more, it's basically I stopped blocking myself. So I'm starting to see more. I'm not hearing much, but I think part of that is maybe a fear of if I heard a voice in my head that wasn't mine, maybe I'd go a little mad. We got enough going on in 2025 here, but there could be some underlying fear there that I'm not cognizant of, but I'm noticing the other clairs are slowly starting to awaken, and I'm here for it. Just bring them on. I'm ready for them all, and more blue people too, please.
Yeah. That'd be fun. Yeah, it's funny that you say that about the clairs because I started off very young. I want to say it was like 4 or 5 where clairvoyance and clairaudience like landed at the same time. It wasn't like one came in first and the other like layered on top. It was like both, right? So seeing things,
Wow.
and hearing things, and and it was scary because I was just in our family I had heard like my grandmother had schizophrenia, and so I'm like, oh no, am I like grandma? like what's going on? And so I used it for a while. I mean, I was smart enough to know that it was a real gift and it wasn't a delusion, like it was grounded in something, because certain things would prove itself to be right, like we would be lost, right? And I would hear a voice that said make 2 rights. I'm like, mom, make 2 rights, and then we get back to where we are. And then so luckily there's a little bit of that to where it grounded me as a 5-year-old. But then eventually along the way, there was like some other incidences where I was just like, nope, no more, cut it all off, don't want it. And then during my Saturn return when I was 30, they both came back very, very strong, clairaudience and clairvoyance. And I was going into real estate, and I'm thinking, I'm going into houses and some of them are haunted. And I'm like, darn, can't I just have clairsentience and claircognizance first? I know I just had my re-spiritual awakening. I know I just got back from my ayahuasca trip, but can we start off with like the ones where they're not so obvious? So I think it's funny because there, and I knew I wasn't crazy, but it was just like, okay, act real, act normal. You don't see anything over there, just look over here, just trying to like coach myself through it. So it's funny that you said that if you heard voices, that it'd be a different experience, because it is. I mean, but you train yourself, you get used to it, you start to set boundaries with the universe and with your abilities, which I think is really important.
I think it's all in divine timing, and I love that. Maybe that's a new service you could have added into the real estate business where it's like, I will not only help you sell this house, I will clear it of all the juju you don't want. So
Yeah, yeah, I did that for a few close realtor friends. So good. So many good things that we can continue to talk about, but I want to hear more about your shamanic practice. Did you do any training, or is that something that you like, how did you kind of flow into that? How were you called into that?
yeah, great question. So, lots of training, still continue to do training to this day. So, I've come about looking at shamanism as, if you're going to create three little sects within shamanism, there are the rocks, there are the plants, and there are the animals. And yes, all shamanism taps into the spirits and the energetics of all of them, but they spend more time with what is their primary focus. So I studied the Karo way, which is the people of the Andes, more like the Incan way, where you're way up at 14,000 elevation and everything is around the magic of the rocks. Why? Because that's what you have access to. I've also got very involved with cacao, and I work with cacao magic and went through an apprenticeship there, which is understanding working with the divine feminine through the plants that way. And then I've also, through the fungi, I've studied a lot of psychedelics in different capacities. Most recently, I partnered up with Zach Leary, who is the son of Timothy Leary, who's considered the father of LSD, and I started studying under him and connecting and collaborating there to tap in under their lineage of him and Ram Dass. And then from the animal spirits, that's where I've spent the most time. I was introduced to this woman. Her name is Soaring Blue Eagle, and she's lives on indigenous land in South Carolina, and she is the seventh generation medicine woman under basically what could be considered the Mount Rushmore of North American shamanism. So everyone from Red Cloud to Black Elk to Bear Heart are all part of that, which made her the seventh gen. And then after about 3 years of training with her, I became the eighth gen and came up with a fun name for myself, knowing that I'm not born into this lineage as a Jew. So I came up with the term indigijew, which was very, very fitting. And, as the guy who started the multicultural club with my buddy and his mom for my entire town, it was a very fitting route. And also as the guy who wore moccasins, like I told you in high school, makes sense. There's something there that's always been calling. So I went through, pretty intense training and still continue to, and did my vision quest on her land, which was a pretty profound experience and very deep into that. And also then just the study and the expansion of consciousness.
So beautiful. It feels like such a enriched, deep, resonant, grounded experience.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan, and I learned this through my hero growing up, who's my grandmother, who passed in her late 90s. And she was always about never stop learning. And for me, I've just been a lifelong student and have loved studying all of these types of things and never want to stop. And I think so many of us get into this position where, Thomas Jefferson said most people die at 25 and aren't buried until 75. And I'm like, forget that. I've got no interest in that. I'm 48 right now. And I'm like, what can I learn? Oh, interesting. What can I study now? Well, I'm going to go take song lessons because I have a vision. If at 48 I don't sing and I don't play guitar, and the last time I did those things were like junior high. Well, what if I started at 48? By the time I'm 55, I could be sitting at a campfire singing, playing guitar, and be pretty good. So why not start now? And I have zero interest in adulting. So I always want to study and learn and expand consciousness myself. I just feel like it's such a beautiful way to look at life where I want to be that guy who's like, hey, what time did you become a surfer? Oh, around 85, 90. And now that I'm sitting here at 110, I've gotten pretty good. So, whatever that may be, is, I want to soak every ounce of this human experience that I possibly can as I am serving between that bridge and really helping people experience that heaven on earth.
Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you for that. So, on a very basic level, I love breaking down like the initial questions to like a sixth grade level. Not because we're not intelligent, but it just allows us to get like the most basic understanding of something. So, like, what is self-trust?
That's a great question, and I also I'll just to double down on your question with a philosophy I have is that to me the true masters can take the most complex stuff and really simplify it in a way that it becomes bite-sized. But to me, self-trust is first an awareness of what your self actually is. So self-trust for a lot of people, they think trusting their ego. Basically, they're just looking at their earth guide only. But to me, self trust is an awareness of yourself, which there is no acronym for it. So I created one, which is your sacred, empowered, luminous force, your light body, like an understanding of what am I? And when you understand who and what you actually are, and that the greater you is watching everything you're doing and has this beautiful bird's eye view of life, and you can trust in something greater than you that is you and understand the totality that is you, whew, you're never alone, so you're not going to get lonely. And you'll have much more faith by tuning into that inner voice and that awareness, which is usually enthusiasm, which is not fear. Typically, if it's a fear driven thing, that's not you talking. That's Amy, your amygdala, the part of your brain that is nothing's broken in you. It's there to keep you from walking in front of a bus. But is that actually you? No, that's just a piece of you, not the true you. So self trust is first off understanding who and what you are, which is so much greater than you possibly know. And then two, learning to cultivate a relationship with that so you can get to the place, which is the title of my book, which is total self trust, where you are whole, you are worthy, you are complete. And in all of your actions, you can't go wrong.
So beautiful. Two things. One, do you have a part of the book, maybe a small excerpt that you want to share? So you can think about that. And then first thing, like what is the I don't want to say the benefit of self-trust, but what's on the other side of that? When we embrace total self-trust and it becomes a lifestyle, like I know we can't know exactly who we become, but like what does life kind of look like on that other side?
First off, as far as what I think is a piece of the book that is really worth leaning into. Um, so I created a process. It's called the Empower process, and it's the process that I use to basically it's the how-to manual for total self-trust. And that Empower is an acronym for envision first, which is get clear on what you actually want, really getting to that point of the Mad Libs version of your ideal life in every category, which is really about redefining what real wealth is to you. Most people just focus on one problem, like, I don't have enough money, I don't have a girl, I don't have this, I don't have a guy, I don't have a whatever it is, but they don't actually have any idea what the vision is for their life. They may have a smart goal, but they don't have a actual vision or true north. And then the M is for master, which is really learning how to master these different components of embodiment of living their best life. The P is propel, which is getting into momentum. The O is optimize, which basically means once you've gotten to this place of making the conditions work for you, you'll realize that there's parts of this that you need to shed, these old stories, beliefs, habits that are unconscious, and parts that you need to double down on. So once you've now done this, then you wield it out in the world, meaning you're going to actually, like a magician, start using these different tools. And then E is expand, meaning, okay, once I've now gotten myself aligned, since my outer world's a reflection of my inner world, I am now bringing all of these tools into all of my relationships. And then last is root. Most people really focus uh, in a way that I think is totally backwards, which is like, I want to escape this place, escape the matrix, leave the system, whatnot, which I understand. But is your goal to become a self-righteous, bendy a-hole where you're calling other people sheeple and you're not realizing you're connected to everyone else? And in most cases, you become what I like to refer to as a spiritual teenager, meaning I know it all, I'm God, I'm great, I'm amazing, and everyone else around me is asleep. And the spiritual adult realizes there is no one else, there is only you. So you better start loving everything you see in every capacity. That doesn't mean you don't have boundaries in some capacities, right? Which is basically do no harm, take no crap. And finding that, I like to say in my situation, my intention is to not only have no skeletons in my closet, but have no closet. Doesn't mean everybody even makes it past the welcome mat. But I want to be in this situation where I don't have to remember the story that I just sold to this one person to win them and convert them, right? Like I hate so many of these marketing terms like conversion. I'm like, I'm not trying to convert anybody. I'm trying to resonate with the right people and magnetize in those that are aligned with my mission, right? I'm not trying to launch my product. No, it's not going to be perfect or it explodes. I want to open the doors on something. and see what aligns and listen and make changes as needed. So there's that piece. And then the second part is remind me that second part and I can dive in a little bit there.
Yeah, I was just going to see if there's an excerpt in the book that you might want to read, or if maybe off just the top of your head, if you want to mention another powerful part of the book. I know we went through the empower
Mhm.
part as well. So yeah, totally up to you.
Yeah, I would say I'll more leave them with a piece of the book that they should tap into that I think they're gonna like, which is a fun free gift, which is there's a piece in the E and the Envision that once you get your rough idea of what your vision is, just through tuning in, slowing down, and getting calm, is I built this incredible custom GPT, which you can find right through that Envision chapter that you then go online. It puts you in a custom chat GPT thread, and it will walk you through for free every step of crafting your perfect vision of your perfect life. And then from there, also help you with what are the limiting beliefs that are blocking you from actually embodying it, believing it. Because our logical left brain is going to say, yeah, BS, that sounds very airy fairy, but give me some proof and some evidence. And yeah, but I don't make enough money right now, or yeah, but I this. And it will help you break through all of those limiting beliefs to then get to a place where you can actually believe, believe it till you achieve it, right? Like actually embody that vision of your ideal lifestyle.
Yes, beautiful. And I know we're wrapping up on time pretty soon, but a common I could hear people who are listening who are like, how can I trust myself when I've made so many mistakes in my life? Can you address that for us?
Right. That's a really good question. I would say for most people, first off, Lordy, do I have some great stories that I can share of things that could be perceived mistakes, multi-million dollar huge opportunities that have slipped through my fingertips. And I think the first step is taking radical responsibility and saying, you know what? I created my own reality. And the reason, how do I trust myself now? Well, the first thing is, how did you act then? Did you act from a place of being whole, worthy, and complete? Did you act from a place of following your enthusiasm, or did you act from a place of fear? Or you were trying to get power over something or someone? Or you felt incomplete, so you attracted something that was the magnetic opposite? If you're in a state of wounded feminine, for example, are you attracting wounded masculine? So, what I like to say is first and foremost, align, think, speak, act, not think, speak, act. So, if you are in a situation where you are out of alignment and out of integrity, you're going to attract exactly what's there. So, it's not yourself that you weren't trust or that you were trusting before. It was your lack of completeness that you were trying to fill a void before.
Yeah, powerful. Thank you for that. And is there a practical tool or tip to help people kind of digest all of this from today's conversation?
Sure. A great tool that I like to talk about is I call it the microscope or the telescope. And your goal is to lengthen your patient's fuse. In a lot of cases, is like everybody has a little bit of a ticking time bomb in them. And how long is that fuse? And how quickly can I become the observer? So sometimes if your eye is too in that microscope, too much stuck in the minutia, you have done a really good job convincing yourself you're not the universe, but you're actually the actor in the play. Good job. Sometimes that's going to serve you, other times it won't. But if things are really intense and you're stuck in anxiety, overwhelm, freaking out, worried that the world is collapsing around you, zoom out. And the first thing is breathe. And the breath will pull you out of the microscope and slowly back to the place of the telescope. And the further the way you get, and the more you can become an observer, which is one of the beauties of certain plant medicines, the more you can actually just sit back from a place of calmness and look at your life, you will realize that you are guided, you are protected, you can be grounded, and you can live the life you want the way you want it.
Oh, so good. That's like gold. It sounds simple, but it is a golden piece of wisdom. So thank you for that. I hope this conversation is resonating with you. And if you want to keep in touch with Kyle, please do. All of his links are here in the description. We have his Instagram, his Facebook, and his website. His website is here. It's rapidharmony.com. Rapidharmony.com. You just go to the link in the description and you can click on it and look for his book, Total Self Trust. It just came out on November 1st, so it's out now. And connect with him. And Kyle, is there one powerful way that people can work with you?
First off, thank you so much for having me. This is a blast of a conversation, and I can see there's total resonance between the way you see the world and the way I do, which is, again, why we connected in the first place. And the greatest way to get a hold of me is through social media, Kyle Emanuel Brown. We've got fantastic coaching options out there, both in a group and in an individual concierge-like setting. And the greatest way to get in touch with me is just through social.
Amazing. And do you have a book rec or a quote that you want to leave us with?
Mm. One of my favorite quotes actually was something that we focused on when we were little kids, which was from Willy Wonka, which is a little nonsense now and then is relished by the wisest men or women. And I'm a huge fan of that quote. I think when I looked at spirituality, I thought it was the most serious thing in the world and that everything had to be so sacred and serious and heavy and heal your trauma. But when I looked at the most enlightened beings on the planet, they're so playful. They're like 2 year olds. They're childlike. They're laughing. They're smiling. They're giggling. And that's why the most important metric in all of this is, what I call 400 laughs, which is making sure you spend most of your day in joy. You're laughing and you're not taking everything so seriously.
Oh my God, I love it. And by the way, that is such a synchronicity because I was speaking with my spirit guides because I'm clairaudient and I was, having a chit chat like, hey, some things have shifted and they were like, if it's not that you haven't stopped having fun, but you kind of stopped expressing it or showing it to others. You started to kind of keep it a secret. So when people see you having fun and dancing and acting goofy and blah, 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 so today I like post I'm in this elephant sweater and I'm like jumping and flopping around. I mean, those are things that I do. I wasn't doing it for the gram. I was that I do that every day. But somehow I started to kind of hide it from the world, and so that's where my guides were like, "Just be you. Just put it up every now and then, not every day, but like when you have time." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right," because that playfulness, it's contagious and it gives other people permission because we all
Bingo.
have it within us. I think some people are just waiting for that permission. And so it's so inspiring. So thanks for that quote.
Love it.
Absolutely. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your time and your energy and your wisdom with us. I really do appreciate it.
It was so much fun. Thank you again for having me. And hopefully, if you're listening at home, you at least had a good time today.
Yes, absolutely. Please share this episode with one friend. I'm sure someone came to mind while you were listening to this episode, and you're probably like, oh my God, my sister needs to hear this. My neighbor needs to hear this. Someone in my community, this is like the perfect message for them. So copy and paste the link and share it over so that way they can get the value out of this conversation. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Namaste and have a great day.